What's going on YouTube? Earth Power here with CVH,
How's it going, everybody?
and we have another discussion video for you today. Let me start by saying this Season 1 bracket tournament has been an absolute blast. We've been having a ton of fun making the content for you, re-narrating over these matches, and really just highlighting what Duel Masters looks like in 2023. So much so that we are introducing Season 2 of the bracket tournament. 2023's Season 2 bracket tournament featuring the Finnish ban list. CVH, why don't you tell them a little bit about what we got going on?
Can do. Yeah, we're still playing this Finnish format. Well, we won't be shouting it out probably every match like we have been in the past, but just so you all know, as we go through these decks today and tell you what we're going to be playing in the bracket itself and in the future deck profiles, to keep in mind, we are playing a 40-card max format with Bombazar banned, Clamp and Corile at 1, and Soul Swap, Slash Charger, and Future Slash all limited to 2. So in today's video, as you can see, we have this covered up thing on screen, and that is the list of all of the decks that we've chosen to play in Season 2's bracket tournament. Some you might have seen in Season 1, some are new, some are relevant in different metas like the IDC tournaments they hold online, and we have picked decks that we want to see in the bracket. Carl and I have ranked their power, and through the course of the video we're just going to be revealing them one by one, telling you a little bit about why we chose them, maybe how they differ from Season 1 if they were included, and then showing you the matchups as the bracket seeded it out for top 16 at the end of the video. You got anything else for the
Absolutely.
people before we get into these decks?
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say before we get to all that, I did want to again thank you guys so much for all of the engagement, the comments, the likes, everything you guys have been doing to really just make this fun for Christian and I. We put this stuff together for you, and then to see you guys respond so positively to it, it's just been awesome to jump back into this community that we loved building here so much back in 2012, and here we are a decade later, doing it again, and it feels like better than ever. And with that in mind, I will be posting probably in the next week or so once I get the details ironed out. We're going to try to do this season 2 kind of like March Madness for those of you who are familiar with basketball here in the States. They do a bracket tournament for a lot of the college teams, and the way they do it is people vote on who they think will win and how these matches will go. And I'm going to have some giveaways here on the channel. I've got some sealed product, some deck boxes, some Duel Master themed gifts that I would like to give away to you guys for all of your support over the past couple of months and as we continue to do this. So stay on the lookout for that video. That will get posted probably here within the week. And yeah, I think that's all I've got for now. So stay tuned and hoping to bring that to you and hoping to gain a little bit more excitement as we jump into this season 2 stuff. But yeah, let's get into these decks, Christian. Let's show them what we got.
Let's do it. So yeah, it's a 16 deck single elimination format, same exact format as we did for Season 1. But actually, we have we actually had 19 decks that we wanted to showcase, and we just
21.
couldn't. We had 21, but 2 of them are pretty terrible. So 19 functional decks, and we couldn't narrow it down past that. So what we decided to do is figure out between the 2 of us 15 decks that we just thought really deserved a shot in Season 2's bracket. And then we had 4 more decks that we are you good? Are you gonna leave? Okay, we're good. We had 4 more decks outside of those 15 that we wanted to do a play-in match for, or a series of play-in matches to decide the 16th seed in the bracket. So I don't know, we didn't discuss this beforehand, but did you want to reveal all the play-in decks at once or do those one at a time too? I'm down for either.
I think we can reveal all of those at once. Yeah, sorry, we got a little bit of background stuff going on here. But yeah, no, I think we should reveal the play-in tournament kind of all at once. I think
Okay.
that's the way to do that, and then we can go through
Let
the other
me
decks one by one.
let me try to do this
So
the
while
correct
Christian
way.
works on that, my initial thoughts to setting up season 2. Season 1 has been a blast. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think as we got into this more, as we start to put these lists together back in November and December, and really started to in a sense fine tune them, I think as we started playing the matches, as we got more involved on some of the Discord channels, I think CVH and I realized very quickly that the meta has shifted a lot in the past 10 years, as one does. You guys overseas have been playing this game a lot more than we have, and I think it shows very much in some of the lists that we brought to season one. And I think you'll see kind of what that shift looks like as we get into the decks here for season two. So I just wanted to let that be the caveat as we start to dive into some of these decks.
Yeah, I do think, granted, this is a 16 deck format. They're all unique decks, so it's not the same meta you'd get if you put 16 good players into a room and told them to pick their decks. You'd get duplicates of decks, obviously, in different variants. But given what we're trying to do with the unique 16 decks, this is definitely, hopefully, much more indicative of what the reasonable decks of Duel Masters currently look like. And of course, we're playing the 40 card format, so it's a little different than you would play in like the IDC. But these are, I think, significantly better, a better spread of decks than Season 1. And the decks that carried over from Season 1 should be hopefully better built and make a lot more sense.
Refined. Yeah. So,
But yeah, going
yeah,
into
great.
this, yeah, so by the way, you'll notice we rated these, each of us rated them from 1 to 19, because there were 19 total decks, and we already knew which 15 we were going to put in the main bracket, so we just took the ones that were going to be in the play-in, and based on where they landed in the seeding, they're going to be seeded in their own 4-person, or 4-deck bracket. So yeah, we have,
Yeah.
you want to announce which ones they are? You can see them. I can see them.
I can see them. So we have Light Fire Nature Wave Strikers, a deck you guys should be familiar with from season one. It lost very horribly to Pegasus very early on in that bracket
It was
tournament.
2 to
The
1.
first match, the top 16. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough for us. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way. Light Fire Nature, we're calling this jungle. It's very much just like an aggressive, a more tempo-y mid-range. It kind of falls into that middle ground. And then Christians, baby, Water Dark Fire Declotans, the rub variant that has the win condition with Gajira Boot, which you guys also saw top 16 and move on to 8. And then the final deck here is Waterfire Rush.
But yeah, I guess we should
So,
start with these decks. Let's start from
yeah,
bottom to top, because these are like the lowest rated. Waterfire Rush came in at a, wow, pretty low rating, right? You put it at 19th out of 19. I put it at 18th out of 19. So yeah, we'll show you these lists, obviously, when we get into the deck profiles. We'll deck profile the play-in ones too. But Waterfire Rush, I personally thought deserved a second chance, but I guess we decided not as much of a second chance to put it in the bracket proper, so it's in the
yeah.
play-in.
Yeah, you'll notice as we kind of go up this list here, Waterfire Rush came in very low, obviously, which I think is just indicative of being a play-in deck. Similar things can be said for Declotans and Jungle, but Wave Strikers ranked higher. We Christian and I, CVH and I are still pretty high on Wave Strikers. I think it's still a very good tempo deck, but like I said, the way we ranked this in the top 19, we knew which 15 decks we wanted. So we figured we'd rank them all against each other and let that be the way that we seeded the play-in, because what we're really going for in these bracket tournaments is to give you guys interesting matches that are also fun for us to commentate and should just have good general intrigue. And I think these play-in decks are, while they're not bad, that shouldn't be the word we use. Yes, it ranked 19, but
I
Waterfire
don't think
could
it's bad.
still just make a run. Any of these decks in theory could win a tournament.
Yeah.
But to that point, these are the decks that we weren't as high on as far as letting them play, multiple matches if it goes that way. So
Yeah.
leave that thought there. But yeah, Waterfire Rush. You guys saw it. It played okay in top 16. It faced off against Declotans, which it stands another chance at doing here to make it into the top 16 bracket. But yeah, it's just I think it's the weakest of the aggro strategies because it's not really a true aggro. It's aggro with a little bit of life between turns 4 and 6, and it didn't feel like a deck I'd necessarily wanted to play again. But like CVH said, we figured we'd give it another shot, see if it could make it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty dope, and I think we made some good changes. Spoiler alert, we've added Deadly Fighter Braid Claw, so now it's more of a true
Yeah,
rush deck, which I think makes a lot of sense.
not
So
the
stay
one
tuned.
Buckyball. Yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned for that updated bracket coming soon. Moving on, Declotans, I guess I can speak to a little bit.
Yeah.
We wound up updating this list too. We were wondering if we should even have Waterfire Control as a deck that we brought in, and I think we just sort of landed on like, as far as a control deck goes, the classic rub is more mid-rangey, and like Declotans does play like an actual control deck. So it'd be interesting to see if it can perform in this bracket with some updates. We added some more chargers to it, give it some more ramp potential, and I just really like how it's kind of like teched out. Play a lot of one-ofs, and it does suffer from having a very linear game plan. It takes forever to get off, but it'll be fun to see if it can hold its own. I don't know if you have any
Yeah,
thoughts on
and I
Declotans.
mean, yeah, it's just one of the decks. As we get into this bracket, and we'll have some final thoughts on the showing of it. But I think these more like heavier control strategies, you'll see that they get a little bit more teched moving forward, and that's with a lot of influence from the IDC metas, which is what CVH and I are pulling a lot of these thoughts from. Because the thing is they just have a lot more games under their belt. I think Declutans is one of those decks that sees a lot of splashes from that meta, in the chargers that it's using, and that
Yeah.
it's still doing the same thing, but we just kind of moved the removal around, and we focused more on what the deck was good at. And I think you'll see that across the board as we start to get into some of these profiles
Yeah.
in
But I
the
mean,
coming
I
weeks.
haven't really, I have barely see, I don't think I've seen a Declotans ever actually in that tournament. So I mean, it kind of, it's,
Also, yeah,
yeah, it
yeah.
is sort of outclassed by the harder control decks that'll be in the actual bracket. Lightfire Nature Jungle. What is Jungle? Well, it's pretty much aggro. It's a little bit slower than a Rush deck, but it's pretty dang aggressive. And we're gonna have this
Yeah.
profile be interesting because y'all have no idea what to expect.
Not at all. This was a concept deck. This was a brew that I kind of got in late with Gorby, and Lugia Lex, Kaiser, Basaku were like kind of the keys for why this deck was interesting to us. Kaiser's just huge, and it comes down early, and all of its support cards are good. There's a what's the 2-drop for initiates, Migalo,
Yeah,
which
I like
on
Migalo.
paper doesn't seem like a great card, but it's a two turn 2 initiate that can attack, and it has a neat effect that might do something useful every now and then. So pairing that with Kaiser and letting this play very similar to Waterfire Nature tempo was the whole theory behind Jungle, and why we thought we'd include it. But as we started to get into more of the lists, which you'll see for what we picked for the top 15 here, um, Jungle ended up just getting the cut. It's another one of those wholly untested theory craft decks that on paper looks like it can play well, but that has yet to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it. I'm also excited to see Wave Strikers again, the last deck in the play-in bracket, which we notably ranked as the #1 seed in Season 1, because, boy, we just discovered that 6,000 power is pretty good. But I think we probably overrated it a bit. That said, there will be some edits to this deck, not a ton, but we did make it a little tiny bit slower and sacrifice the curve a bit just to have Killstein as a potential win button in case we need to beat over Valkyrs or whatever blockers trying to traumatize my poor little Wave Strikers this time.
Yeah, yeah. Wave Strikers needed a finisher. We played this as a wholly just aggro deck. That was the whole point. Aggro with Holy All. And I think the deck suffered from just its inability to overcome a board if you were able to get in the way of that 6,000 power creature. And Killstein says that doesn't matter. If they try to play the long game with Wave Strikers, Killstein says you lose. So that's the point of this. This was the only deck that was questionable as far as putting it in the play-in spot. I think between CVH and I, we had decided that the 15 decks that we're going to showcase here momentarily uh, were deserving of being in the bracket just for showman's sake. And, not saying that we think Wave Strikers is going to make it out of the play-in, but it's the deck I voted on to make it out of play-in. So, we'll see how that does once we get around to matches. But figured if Wave Strikers wants to be in the tournament, it can earn its spot this time since it lost wholly to the rank 16 deck in season 1. So
Did. Yeah. At least
that
now
was
if it
tough.
gets into the bracket, it'll be the 16th seed. That's pretty ironic. You lose to
Well,
16, you become 16. Yep, that is it for the play-ins. So those will play a single elimination bracket that we will show at the end of the video, and that will be the 16th slot. But how about we get into the meat of the bracket, the real decks?
You love meat.
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian. I had to, contractually, I'm supposed to mention it a couple times a day to people who didn't ask. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a vegetarian, guys. Have been for years. But yeah, we're moving on. Number 15 in the bracket. Speaking of real decks, Water Dark Fire Dragons.
So
Wave Strikers died for this, Carl.
stick with me.
Okay.
This was the one that was kind of my baby to hold and craft and mold. And we'll see that in the deck profile as we get there. I wanted this. I felt like this just deserved a spot. Dragons have seen play a lot actually in IDC. While they're not, the most highly touted decks, um, dragons typically make an appearance in almost every tournament there. Um, Different versions of it. We decided to go with Water Dark Fire, make it a rub variant, stick to draw power, and just lean on, Velirika and Bajula and just let them do the heavy lifting. Play it with a bunch of anti-rush cards and just let Bajula be the imposing force that is just hard to deal with. And that's the whole point here. It's a mid-range dragon deck, and that's where we're at with it.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if Bajula sees play. At least it only evolves on one thing. I'm excited for it. It's a cool little deck.
Yeah.
And with the way these single elimination brackets are seeded, Water Dark Fire Dragons will play against whatever the second seed is. If you want to find out what these high seeds are, you just have to watch the whole video. Sorry about it. But hey, you clicked, so you're here now. You're stuck with us.
Here we are.
Moving on to number 14. I actually don't remember a lot of what these are. Oh, as you can see, Water Dark Fire Dragons, we did rate it power level wise pretty poorly. But again, it's one of those decks that even though we knew it's pretty weak compared to even some of the play-in decks, we did want to put it in the actual bracket to make sure it got in. Because people want to see Bajula on the channel. And moving on to 14, this is a deck that was in Season 1, Survivors, but we added a whole civilization. And you still dumpstered it in the rankings.
8-color light section. So Survivor's downfall in the bracket tournament was that it played against Fire Nature Rush. And I did not... The list that I brought in for Survivors was just very much a non-educated list. That's a Fortress shell.
Oh, no. Okay. That's the
Christian was
wrong...
looking for a factory shell there, yeah.
Wow, that's too obvious.
Right? You were close.
Dang,
But
there we
yeah,
go.
there it is. There it is. That's the Survivor boy. Survivors. The deck on paper is supposed to be good, right? Factory Shell, Graveworm, Q just give control just a very, very difficult time. So in a control heavy meta, Survivors should be doing well. It's a bunch of sticky creatures that all play off of each other, and they're hard to deal with. Hard to deal with. And Qtronic Gargantua is just your ace in the hole. You drop it with 3 or 4 survivors on the board and you just win the game. So teching the rest of this deck, you're going to see a much more aggro teched or teched against 4 aggro version of this deck in the profile once we get there. But yeah, no, figured survivors needed a second chance. We saw some really cool lists. The 4-color version in IDC has been doing really well the past couple of months, and hence why we ended up going to 4 colors here. Getting it down to 40, I'll tell you, was tough. But
Yeah.
we did it, and we're going to give it a shot and see if it can make it out of top 16 this round.
Yeah, Survivors is really cool, and it's kind of a control killer in just the way the deck functions. So, I mean, last bracket it got paired up against Fire Nature Rush in round 1. We'll see if it got a control deck in round 1 this time. Stay tuned to find out. It'll be up against whatever the 3 seed is. Moving on to number 13, Lightwater Darkfire deck out. Another one. Yeah, this is another deck we had in season 1. That
Yep.
also did not make it out of top 16. That is back for season 2 with added civilizations. We played the Darkfire variant. Now we're playing Lightwater Darkfire. And Light and Water add some pretty cool cards, I think, to deck out.
Yeah. Transmogrify, to name one. That's just a really neat deck out card, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're just milling, potentially 3, 4, 5+ cards if you can just avoid creatures.
And
So,
this bad boy, Miraculous Snare, that's
yeah.
pretty cheap.
Yeah, turns out, the best one for one removal in the game is a 3 cost Lightwater spell.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially when you're never gonna break their shields ever. Who cares how many they have? They're just gone.
yeah, Ancient one
Yeah.
cares, but I don't
Oh
even think that
geez.
card's in this tournament.
Thank
Spoilers.
God, right?
Um, we yeah, so this 4-sit deck out should be. It's weird because looking at deck out before, I would have said it has probably the best aggro matchup. It should just beat Rush because it has all of the early turn removal. When we get into the profile for this in the future, I think we had to cut something. So we let we let this deck do kind of what it needed to do to just maintain and be deck out.
Yeah.
And if you just hit on Kurt, you sacrifice the one matchup that was already going to be tough to make the rest of your matchups better. And I think deck out is one of the decks that see that come into play as we move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I did copy the bulk of this deck, and a couple others were heavily influenced by certain members of the IDC community who play those decks as like their babies. Someone played this to really good effect in one of the IDC tournaments, and hopefully I remember it when we actually do the profile. But yeah, I mean, I'm mostly just taking people's word for it. Again, we haven't tested a lot of these decks because it's literally just us in the solo community. So yeah, that person said it did fine against Rush, and I'm just gonna hope, just gonna hope they were right. Let's see. What's number 12? It's so fun to do this. I actually don't remember. This is like one of those little Advent Christmas calendars,
I've,
right?
I've got mine pulled up on the other screen. I know exactly what's coming.
Oh geez, I don't. Number 12, Light Waterfire Rush. Okay, this is the deck that Waterfire Rush was relegated to the play-in for. Well, you wanted to play a spicier version of Rush in this bracket. So tell me
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah. So this deck is basically it takes Waterfire Rush and actually makes it more of a rush deck versus where I think Waterfire leans more into the tempo realm. You get your 1-drop Tolk out of it. You get Deadly Fire. Did we even play Deadly Fire in this? I gotta go pull the
Oh
list
yeah.
up. But
Yeah, you got Deadly
yeah,
Fighter and Tulk.
yeah, for sure. So this deck plays all of the 1-drops, and it just leans more into being a little bit more spell heavy with cards like Solgala. It gets access to Spiral Gate, things like that. So it does all of the things that Firewater does, but it gets big bulky cards um, out of Solgala, and I'm trying to find the list now so that I'm not talking out of my
Yeah,
butt
I mean
here.
you get Spiral Gates, you get Lucky Balls, I believe, which is pretty
Yeah,
sick to reload because you're playing 1-drops pretty frequently, so often your opponent will be down shields. I mean, y'all see the profile. We copied this entirely from someone who posted it on Discord because it just looked sick. And it's basically, like you said, it does everything Fire does for Rush, with the added 1-drops in Tulk, and, obviously the utility of Water's Bounce and Draw. Only potential downside is like, yeah, you get mana screwed a little bit more often because it's 3 colors, but hopefully not too much. And
yeah,
we'll have to see
and
how consistent it winds up being. But I
yeah, for
think
sure.
it stands a pretty good chance.
I like it a lot. This is one of those decks, and you see where I ranked it versus CVH. I felt like this was going to be a strong contender in this tournament. I think Rush in general is just underrated. Um, I think this version of it is definitely one of the spicier ones we've put together in a while. So,
Yeah, I just popped
shout
up a
out to
Farzia on screen too, because Farzi's kind of dope to get
yeah,
those gates and volcanic arrows back.
yeah, like just it's cool. This deck has a lot of weird utility that it can play off of, and really utilize Soul Gala to do really cool things. It's basically the pig of light, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, and you played Oracles before. You're very experienced with Oracles and Rush decks.
I am. I am. I played Oracle Rush, the garbage ass Oracle Rush that I played in Champs 2006.
We're still
Somehow went
losing
6.
sleep. Yeah, we're still losing sleep over decks we played in 2006. It's the struggle.
We let each other leave the hotel room. I let you leave with a 70 card pile. You let me leave with oracles.
Spencer and I just kept on making our decks better. And by better, I mean we kept adding more cards. It's rough.
I need this.
Yeah, it was really bad. Okay, speaking of decks that aren't bad, the 11th seed, Water, Dark, Fire, Nature, Rebirth, Midrange. I am feeling this one,
Yeah.
Mr. Krabs. Oh my goodness. This deck is cool. So what you'll see in the profile is that it plays some 4-ofs like Hulkus, Bronze Arm, Surfer, and 3 copies of Miraculous Rebirth, and just like an insane amount of oh, Carl is gone. Not sure why. Hope he comes back. There he is. What's up? Say
It
something.
was weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was weird. You look so good, Mr. Stark. But yeah, it plays some 4-ofs, 3 Miraculous Rebirths, which I'll get up on screen here in a sec, and a bunch of 1-ofs of various costs, 1-of and 2-ofs, in Water, Dark, Fire, and Nature. So yeah, let me just throw Rebirth up while you talk about the deck a little bit.
Yeah, Rebirth, I mean, so again, a lot of these decks are pulls from other people's lists, and stay tuned for deck profiles. For those of you who aren't getting shout outs right now, it's because we walked into this wholly unready to talk about a lot of these, at least in length at the moment, but during the
Yeah.
profiles, you guys will get your shout outs as we
I
go of
saw
just
Yeah.
lists, but
I saw at least 2 different Rebirth mid-range lists that were pretty similar in that they played 3 Rebirths and a lot of 1-of and 2-ofs. There's a lot of different
right.
cards you can play when you have that much flexibility in the deck.
And
Um,
and that's what's cool, right? Rebirth just lets you it's toolbox in a different way. It's creature toolbox. You make sure you have all of your 5 drops that you need for any given situation, and Rebirth gets you there. You know, blink something on board and put out the card that gets you further along towards whatever goal you're trying to get at. And
yeah.
just a really interesting version, or really interesting way to play mid range, because you get all these tech cards you can play towards, almost any matchup. Do we need an ice vapor? Who knows? But there's
Yeah.
one in the deck.
The value this card provides is immense, right? Like it already 1-for-1s with anything that you're killing, obviously. And then it +1s when you get a free creature from your deck, and often that creature can +1 too. I was talking to you earlier about like if it's up against let's say Mysteryos or something, you can not only 1-for-1 Mysteryos, which is already like what Terrapit would be doing, but you can search out like a Gallic or a Corile or something, which will then get rid of something else on their board. It's like a +3 at that point, and it's crazy. Or it potentially is crazy. It can kill Declawaz, it can kill Hydras, it can kill a 3-drop and just give you a Hulkus. It's just an incredibly flexible card, and this is kind of the perfect shell for it, which is why it's a 3-of, and I'm really excited to play Rebirth because I've always loved the card, and it's just like, wasn't doing it back when we were playing in the
Right.
English meta.
We never found a home for it. I think we always treated this more as a control card. We played it in those heavier controls that we played in the past. And while, yeah, that's neat, control's already doing this card's typically trying to do on board, and you want to be oppressive with it, and mid range just as a shell, as a force shell, give this deck, like you said, the flexibility to kind of do what you want.
Yeah. Stay tuned for this profile because like it seriously plays so many cards as a 1-of and 2-of that I've always wanted to have an excuse to play. Looking at you, Hawkeye Lunatron. I'm just,
Yeah,
it's gonna
yeah.
be dope for sure.
Those ones that reminder for like
Yeah.
15 years. Yeah.
Yeah. That's gonna be an exciting one. That's gonna be my favorite thing to profile for sure. And then we move on to 10. Ooh, spicy.
Yeah.
Lightfire
No,
Nature Turbo Burn.
all I can think of is the kid on the meme of the kid on the toilet, but he's strapped in. And like, why are his legs strapped in? Like, you have no idea what this kid ate.
So yeah, you've seen, if you've been watching season 1, that we have recently realized that Lightwater Dark Nature Mana Burn Fortress Shell is a really good deck, even in a 40 card format, although it's probably much better if you can play even more cards with 4 soul swaps. But another deck that's been going around the IDC meta is Turbo Burn, which is just Lightfire Nature, and it just goes for the ramp and the mana burn and removal and fire. You have some stuff going on there, but it really is like, cut out all the BS, let's burn them out, and even so far as to use cards like Reap and Sow, and like the Fortress Shells, obviously. My version is playing a spicy 1-of Cataclysmic Eruption, which I'm just saying right now so I can, not convince myself to take it out last minute. I'm scared. But this is yeah. Actually, where did we rank this deck? I think I put it at 9.
You put it at 9. I came in at 14. Just again, it's another one of those wholly untested decks that we haven't really had a chance to play with yet. So that's why it came in low for me, and I'm banking on a lot of these tempo and aggressive decks. Maybe giving this deck the hands, but we'll see.
It could, but
Um,
this deck
yeah,
also has a lot of ramp into its removal. It has Essence Elf as like a 4 of, I think,
yeah.
Bronze Arm, Volcano Charger. Essence into Volcano Charger, all of a sudden you're popping off on like a turn 4 Blizzard of Spears or something.
This deck has some really cool interactions thanks to Essence Elf, and yeah, I'm excited to kind of see where this ends up going.
Yeah. Actually, that's a turn 4 APOC, right? Essence Elf, Volcano Charger, APOC?
Essence Elf, Volcano Charger, APOC, correct?
Yeah,
No,
that's
no, APOC goes to 6.
you're right, you're right, you're
So
right.
Essence
And I will be at
Charger,
3,
yeah,
4,
yeah,
5. Yeah. Okay. I can still play my Blizzard though. It's fine. Math is really
yeah.
hard. Whatever. I'm just gonna burn them out. They're not gonna have mana. Who needs to remove things? That's the hope. So if you wanted to see more mana
Who's
burn
not
in
playing
season 2,
Blizzard?
it's there. It's not. Is Burst Shot? I don't remember what's in the
No,
deck. There's some mass kill in there, right?
nope.
What's in fire?
Yeah, yeah.
What? No. What's in fire?
Volcano Charger, APOC, Bali, Baza,
Okay.
Cataclysmic Eruption.
All right. I can't turn 4 Blizzard, but I can turn 5 APOC,
You
and
can.
that's good enough.
And we can get
Damn
there.
it. That's just good
Uh,
enough. I hope.
Follow your heart.
Yeah.
Uh, then we get
Number
to your
9.
baby, the top 4 contender right now up against Fortress Burn, our top 4 season 1 at the moment. No Phantom Mag. I've come
Yeah.
around. I've come around very much on this deck. You and I
You
ranked it very
have.
close together.
Yeah, you ranked it
At
higher than
about
me.
did.
I never would have thought.
Who'd have guessed it? Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just this is the most true version of a mid-range card that I think exists. It's just the idea of just making it hard for your opponent to gain ground on board until you have 3 or 4 creatures, you drop a Phantomac, and you swing for game. Like it's cool. I was not on board 3 months ago when you were like, I'll build Phantomac. I was like, I'll build Worm. We'll have a fun little match. And you're like, no, I think this deck's real. And I was like, yeah, you're full of crap. And
You did
turns
say
out,
that.
turns out, turns out it's just good enough to make it to top 4
Yeah.
and possibly farther.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the decks that of the ones we had in season 1 has improved significantly, if not only because we were like, Petrova's probably good in this deck. If the whole idea is playing a bunch of little things that are hard to deal with, creating an annoying board, and then playing Phantomac, it's like, well, Petrova fits into that literally perfectly. Like there
Yeah.
is, you want your Kamikaze Chainsaw Warrior to beat over Ganta, that's the card. You want to make Palo Oasis really annoying and, use Mystrios to draw for 3 turns against control, that's the card you want. So
Well, Master
that'll be
Warrior's turn
in.
got it to just be able to swing over any creature in the game.
Yeah, yeah. Basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So we'll see how it performs. Even if it does worse this time than in season 1, like the deck itself got way better. So it'll be cool to see this again. It's just really fun to play like an aggressive deck that doesn't have to break shields early. It gives you a lot of flexibility and you don't have to worry about shield triggers as much until you get that Alpha Strike potential where you can break like 9 shields in 1 turn. So
Yeah.
yeah, I like it.
Duel Masters is such an interesting take, just kind of offshoot of that, but like you don't get rewarded for patience often, like especially with like decks like Mana Burn. Some of these not I don't know where else I'm going with this, but like you want to get aggressive when the time's right. This deck rewards you for just not swinging wildly, which is a weird concept, and that's again why we talk about it just being the mid-rangey of the mid-range decks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I've come around. I like it a lot, and I think it's going to have a really good show this time around.
And it's still going to have a ton of shield triggers, like maybe 1 or 2 less, but still just an absolute ton of shield triggers,
Yeah.
which is a lot of fun. Hate that for your aggressive opponents.
Now we're
Hey,
going
we're
to
moving on.
be in the matches that are going to come. Yeah. So who's Phantomac going to play against? Who came in
Yeah,
at 8?
we're officially in the top 8, and the way Single Limb is seeded, 8 seed faces the 9th seed in the round of 16. Lightwater, Alzonius, a deck that caused many of our Earth Power viewers to say, why aren't you playing it?
So we opted in season 1 to play Buttnoid,
Yep.
the wise Starinoid version of Lightwater. And I think we talked ourselves into what do you call it when you like anti-meta yourself? Is that it? Like you start metaing against yourself? But
No,
like
I just think I was dumb.
Either way, I mean, I was the one who vaulted for it, but yeah. So Starinoid turns out not I mean not a bad card, but not a great card. I think
Like the
Alzonius
deck
was
wasn't bad because the deck gets to play good light and water cards. But as
right.
far as
And
like a good card to want to play in that, this is way
right.
better.
Let's utilize. Let's not only take what light and water does well, but let's give it a body that is impossible to deal with. And that card is Warlord Alzonius. It's a massive Petrova that can't be touched. So
Yeah,
Petrova can't be touched. It's just a big body that you can't touch. You can't interact with this card.
can't touch
I
this.
don't know a different way to say it.
Yeah, I mean we know cards like this are good too because like we played Kaijudo in the absolute hellscape that was like the tricky turnip keeper laws tempo meta, right? Like when you
Yeah,
can't target something, things get unfun pretty quickly. When that thing is also 8,000 power and just beating you down, that's like you're just gonna die probably. And that's kind of
yeah.
what this card does to many,
The
many control
tempo engine
decks.
behind it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um so yeah, I mean, it's up against Phantom top 8. That'll be fun. Rothus the Traveler, here we go.
Yeah, yeah. If any deck has at least the card to deal with it, would be Phantom X. So here's hoping. But yeah, I'm excited to see this one. We've had lists like this in the past. You guys can go back in the channel. We have Alzonius lists from decade ago. Definitely go check those out. We've retooled it quite a bit, but we'll get into that with the profile. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this one. I think Alzonius is going to be a lot of fun and
Yeah.
might cause a little bit of disruption as we get into this tournament.
Yeah, it's widely regarded as one of the best decks, just in the actual meta, even though those are like the above 40 card deck metas. And that's what you'll see a lot of in this top 8 is like decks that I think people are understanding are like, oh, these are pretty good Duel Masters decks, no matter what format you're playing. Unless it's something totally crazy. And that trend continues with another deck that we didn't include in Season 1, Lightwater Nature Alcadius, which kind of is like the spirit of the Pegasus deck, but with much better cards. And a absolutely back-breaking finisher. Again, another great finisher against control decks. So you'll see the power of like these Forbos Foul decks and the Mana Burn decks. Like Alzonius and Alcadius just have the tools to answer them. And by tools, I mean win buttons, basically.
Right, right, and I mean we noticed that in the foul matchup, right? That when Alcadius was on board, you were just unable to interact. Like that's and I think that was the realization, or at least turning point, saying, oh, okay, this card's good. This card's viable, and even in a four clamp meta, I think that's at least initially, go back channel history wise, like reasons we weren't playing cards like this in Balam, and this in general, Balam I think it's way worse, but Alcadius just didn't see play because we were playing these hefty control decks that had all of the discard. And so decks like this that weren't able to maintain hand early, just failed. You waste even if you could get Alcadius out by that point, you were already dead on board. So it was tough to justify it back when. Now, and shout outs to Halfar. He won the big IDC championship tournament with a version of this deck,
Yeah.
which we pulled a lot of our list from.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
95% the same, and like the differences are that like we're playing the finish format where soul swap's limited to 2, which again I think is a great decision. So I mean, hey IDC, if you ever want to if you want to ask my opinion, soul swap to 2 seems like it's great. But yeah, I mean we had to replace the 2 soul swaps at least.
yeah, but yeah, looking back at just kind of where Pegasus came from. Pegasus initially was a couple of Pegasus, a couple of Nophia, and we were like, oh well, if you're
Oh,
playing the Angel Command package, why not throw an Alcadius in there? That's a fun tech. And then, all of a sudden it was realized, well, Nophia's garbage. Let's just go with a bunch of Alcadius.
yeah.
And then as we played the Pegasus deck, we're like, Pegasus is kind of but Alcadius, real good card.
Yeah.
Doesn't require two pieces of bait. So let's build a deck around that. And wouldn't you know it, How Far won the IDC championship while we were doing season one stuff. And yeah, here we are
Yeah.
today.
And what you'll see in the profile is that the deck doesn't really center around Alcadius. It's like it's a win button the deck can play, but it's like a really flexible Lightwater nature tempo-y deck that can play offensively or defensively. And if you are in a matchup where Alcadius can win you the game, it has the means to play it, which is why it's there. We're getting to the
Pretty
heavy hitters now. We're going to 6. What
Here we
was
are.
our 6th seed? Ooh,
I
it's
know.
another
Now
staple.
everyone else does.
Yeah, it's another staple of the IDC meta and probably like most active DM metas that again we were not playing in the last season.
Yeah.
We played Lightwater Dark, a mid-rangey version of Marinomancer, and turns out Hydra Hurricane's kind of just everywhere, and there are like established builds that people are playing. It's a sick card. Most of the builds that people are playing are like 45-ish cards. Again, that's sort of hurt by our meta, which is a maximum 40. But with some careful cuts and consideration, we've retooled it, and we have a version of this deck that we're gonna pit up against the other decks in this bracket tournament.
Yeah. No, Hydra Hurricane, if you'd asked me a year ago if Hydra Hurricane was a good card, I probably would have said, it's a good card. I don't know if it's like great by any means. But this is one of those cards that I think just in the way the meta has evolved for Duel Masters, which is just wild to me to say, the TCG meta, this 12 set meta, it's evolved over 20 years. Hydra Hurricane is just it's a really good card, and it plays
It's in the
it
Hall of
plays into
Fame.
that same.
You see that?
You what?
Just it's
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Hall of Fame of like
It
Japanese
just
DM.
yeah, it's just it plays into that same kind of core concept of when you can disturb and disrupt your opponent's mana zone and make it hard for them to play the game. Theory says that if it's harder for them to play the game, it should be easier for you. And Hydra Hurricane does that on multiple levels. It's a tempo card when you need it to be. It's a control card when you need it to be, and you can kind of just build the deck around that. And when you focus control deck around it, like we have with these three civs here, you get access to all of the good cards in dark, light, and water. And um, yeah, you play this card when you're winning, when you're close to getting there, and it does the work you need it to.
Yeah, and of
And
all of the mana burn cards, oh, now do you not want to be in the room? My cat, she's doing things. But this card has the potential for like the absolute most blowout plays, right? Like it can bounce like 6 cards in your opponent's mana zone. So on paper, it's like potentially the highest ceiling, the power ceiling of like any mana burn strategy. And we're not reinventing the wheel with this deck, even though we had to retool it for our format. We're still playing the Mystrios, Pela package, Petrova's. Like the idea of spamming a bunch of hard to deal with blockers, not a ton of things to attack with. You bounce their mana with Hydro, and again, like the Fortress Shell decks, you can go in with like maybe even just 2 or 3 creatures. But if your opponent's on 3 mana, what are they really going to do about it, right? Play Aqua
right,
Hulkus. So, yeah.
right. And that's a so high ceiling is I think what I was trying to grab for there as I was just kind of fumbling through my words there. But yeah, Hydro Hurricane, while it's not always going to bounce 6 creatures and a ton of mana, it's usually going to hit 2 to 3 on either side, whether that's creatures or mana. And sometimes that's just good enough when your opponent's at, 6 or 7 mana. Just put them down and start swinging and ask them to deal with it.
My cat is begging for pets right now, so I'm trying to satiate her so she doesn't scream.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to number 5. Ooh, here we go. Water Dark
Hydras.
Hydras Tempo.
Yeah. What
Pretty
I
dope.
what I like about this top 8 so far is that you and I are ranking decks in similar brackets here. Water Dark Hydra's ranked a little bit higher for me, and I think that's just from how it's performed in season 1. I was already high on Hydras prior, and you'll have to forgive me. I cannot remember where we ranked it in
I
season 1, but
um pretty
I
low
right
compared.
now, if I remember correctly, I think it came in low. Yeah, Hydras came in at 12 last season. Um,
And again, this
so
is actually a deck that we played season 1, but a lot it's not really present in other metas. Like they're aware of the card, but like they do play like a Water Dark tempo deck that just doesn't involve Hydras. And this is one area where I think like maybe we're right. I think Hydras itself is like a powerhouse. Like it's like the
yeah,
card itself. Like the deck obviously like the shell people play it, but like Hydras the card is a good card in my opinion.
yeah, very much so. I mean, all of the cards that are good in this deck are either Hedrians or Cyberlords. And the ability to give them more power, make them unblockable, and essentially turn it into a very similar deck to Phantomac, where you jump Hydras on board, and now you have a board of things that can't be essentially answer during your opponent's turn. They need shield triggers if they're going to deal with the cards on your opponent's turn. Because if you get to swinging, they can't do anything about it. That's the joy of being unblockable. And yeah, I just you said it. I mean, you said it under your breath, but like, whether we were right or not, like I think Hydra's, like you said, is just very strong, and when it hits board, it's usually going to eat at least a whole piece of removal. And playing cards now like Zombie Carnival, to be able to get this back with the array of bait that the deck offers, because regardless of which one you're calling, whether it's Cyberlord or Hedron, you're pulling a Hydra's back, and then you're just grabbing whatever other cards, whether that's Cyberlord or Hedrons, that fall into that category. And doing that with 6 mana on board just means you have Hydra's coming back next turn to start swinging and breaking shields. So it
Yeah.
just does a lot of things well, and these colors are just very, very strong and have a very strong board presence just about every time you put any of them on board.
Yeah, you said they're seeing this before you start posting top 4 matches, right? But they know that this is in top 4. So we will see. One
Correct.
sec.
Well, they've seen all the top 8 matches play, so they know it's in top 4.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah. So they know it's in top 4. We'll see if there's a repeat performance for Hydrus, see if it has another strong showing. And we are moving into, speaking of the top 4 seeded decks. I don't think many of these will be too surprising if you're avid followers of our channel, but coming in at number 4 is an old favorite, Waterfire Nature Tempo. And you've seen some
Oh,
interesting builds and have made this, I think, a lot better than it was in Season 1.
yeah, very much so. We were playing Waterfire Nature Tempo in season 1, like we were still stuck in 2012. A very top-heavy deck that was still kind of the Bombazar-based engine, where you top load all of the cards, and because you were expecting to play against 50 plus card control decks, that your blocker removal and your other ramp cards were just going to get you there. That turns 2 and 3, while important, weren't the most important. Turns out when you clean up the meta a little bit and really fine tune a lot of these control decks, Waterfire Nature was the one that suffered from not really getting any sort of retooling. I was basically playing the same deck that we played on the channel a decade ago. But this version plays Urstomp.
Yeah, we're
So
playing some
shout outs to
Spice.
Xboom. Yeah, shout outs to Xboom. He's who I pulled a lot of these deck ideas from. Urstomp's just massive and can just come down on turn 4 after a Bronze Arm Tribe. And why we never thought to play it prior is beyond me. And I guess the only reason would be
Because you
that,
had them all in your Earthstomp binder. We didn't have... You had them all. You're collecting them, right?
that second effect there that says, bring all the creatures from your mana zone back to your hand. Who cares? You have Pyro Fighter and an 8,000 power beat stick on the board, and you could probably play a Jagalzor the turn after before it swings. So who cares that it's
Yeah.
bringing stuff back? Just reload my hand. Like, I'll go to 3 or 4 mana again. Who knows?
Yeah, I
Who
mean,
knows how
the
many
card...
spells I got in my mana zone?
The card isn't unanswerable, shield triggers exist, miraculous snare exists, but it is significantly harder to answer than like a Windax that you just play even if they don't have a blocker because you need to play something. So I think Waterfire Nature Tempo got a lot more refined. You'll see the list. It has more consistent drops on the early turns, which is really important for a tempo deck. And yeah, I think it's deserving of its top 4 slot, even though it kind of got bodied by my boy Phantomac in Season 1.
Yeah, they'll never see the off-camera matches where I fought for my life
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
trying to
yeah.
justify that deck winning.
Won that best of 7. Uh, Number 3.
Best of 7. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, I ranked Waterfire Nature Tempo higher than even you did. And speaking of, we have Fire Nature Rush. I put this at 2. You put it at 5, but it wound up being tied for 3rd and 4th with Tempo, and it ranked higher because it had the higher overall vote. But Fire Nature Rush, it's another classic. It's present in all the metas. It's been present on our channel, or your channel, for the last decade. And again, it's another deck that was pretty good in Season 1, but was made a lot better with the retooling.
Yeah, and just shout outs to realizing that, Juliana exists. The control decks have realized that, I think, in 2023, that you just play the blockers that can't be dealt with by blocker removal if you're worried about the aggro matchup. So in lieu of all of that blocker removal, we'll just play better removal in cards like Volcanic Arrows. And retool with cards like Poisonous Mushroom, which is the spiciest card I've ever seen anybody add to a Rush deck. And again, it's just crazy that it took us 15 plus years to realize that this card's good in Fire Nature Rush.
Yeah, you just play a Sniper Mosquito turn 1. You play Shroom on 2. Drop a thing in Mana Player 1-drop on turn 3. You have 3 things on board on turn 2. And you're out of a hand, but Sniper Mosquito's going to give you a card back. So you still have gas for
Yeah.
next turn. And you're good.
Grab your speed attacker back, and yeah, just go for
Yeah.
the game on
Or
turn
turn
3.
3. Turn 3 you play double 2. Like Shroom is just, at a certain point in the game it becomes a bad top deck, but boy is it enabling some really explosive turn 2 and 3 plays, right?
But even so, with the you may effect, it's no worse than playing Torcon
Yeah.
blankly. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
you're playing. My point is like you're playing a deck of terrible cards, the top deck late. So just win the game early, and you don't have to deal with it.
exactly. Like, set yourself up for success to win the game turns 1 through 4, because you don't care about the turns
Yeah.
after. If you haven't won by then, you're probably not going to.
Yeah. If the card doesn't say speed attacker, I don't want to see it after that.
Right. Fair enough. But yeah, no, Fire Nature Rush again ranked really high this time around. Um, and again, this retooling, you talk about Fire Nature Rush, fell into the same category as Waterfire Nature Tempo. Just didn't see any changes since we played it back in, I mean, even going as far back as 2006 when we played the game actively. Was the same Fire Nature deck that we played for that long. And for the first time in a lot of years, we we remade it. We put new cards in it. It's gonna be fun to profile. I'm excited.
Heck yeah, we did. All right. Top 2. The deck that came in at second. Lightwater Dark Nature Mana Burn, a deck that we didn't respect at all. Added to Season 1's bracket last minute. And as you can see, it's in top 4 now. So, I mean, it's crushing. Who knows how it's going to wind up, but like, this is the deck that, is a sort of the quintessential mana burn deck of the IDC meta. Fortress Shell is just a powerhouse. Miraculous Plague is a powerhouse. It plays the ramp. It plays the card draw and search. Plays some disruption and darkness. Yeah, you can ramp to Lost Soul against control and then start burning them out. It has, some iffy draws against aggro sometimes, but I mean, as you did see in Season 1, it can beat Fire Nature Rush in a best 2 out of 3 if push comes to shove. It'll be up against dragons in the first round because 2 versus 15. So not really a rush deck. And then 2 decks that burn each other out, that'll be fun. But yeah, this deck is just, I finally have an excuse to pull Fortress Shell up. I can search for the right shell.
Oh yeah. Show everybody Factory Shell this time. Just let it all come full circle.
Confusion.
But yeah, no. So Mana Burn is again. Christian said we didn't respect it. I don't know that it was so much that. I'm so glad we added it last minute once we realized, because that was the thing. You go through the IDC rankings and you see Mana Burn, and it's a deck that prior to January, I don't know that Christian and I had ever considered putting it together. Mana Burn just wasn't really a concept. Turns out it's really good. And while it came in at the quote-unquote rank 14 last season, that was because we just threw it in over a rush deck that we had at that spot, and we let the bracket ride. So this time around, I think it's going to get its
it's due.
It's due.
Yeah, that's a fancy words. I like it.
And, yeah. So I think it's where it needs to be this time around. I do think it's just one of probably according to IDC, with all of the testing they do and all of the matches and tournaments they run, it's also in their top 4. So shout outs to it. I'm excited to see it again in season 2. Much more refined and ready to go.
That was your pick for top deck, and I put it at 4th. I mean, I could definitely see the argument. I put obviously the deck that ranked first was my number 1 pick in the seeding, and then I put the Russian tempo deck 2 and 3. My reasoning for Mana Burn at 4th was just because it's like incredibly strong, but of those 2 I'm gonna say control decks. Of those 2 decks, this Mana Burn deck is hit slightly harder by our 40 card format, just because like things wind up in the wrong places, shells get lost, you can't play 4 soul swaps because it's limited, you can't play 4 cranium clamps because it's limited. Like it suffers in the format we're playing, but I think rightfully so, because the deck is that powerful that it kind of needed to. I'm going to reveal the number 1 seed and let my cat out of the room because she's being crazy. Maybe I am. There we go. Light, Dark, Fire Nature, Foul Control. Tell the people about it.
Oh man. So Foul Control came in at 2 for me, 1 for Christian. So, just in the rankings alone, that set it up as the first seed. Foul is strong, guys. You guys have seen it now play against the Starinoid tempo deck. You saw it play against. Uh, hey, look, it's Christian's cat.
Hi, Rosie.
You saw it play against the Starinoid deck. You guys saw it play against Pegasus and almost, thanks to a lucky trigger, make it out of top 8. But now it's going on to face Hydras in season 1, and I think the general discussion that CVH and I have had back and forth since we started season 1 and started posting videos is that Foul just feels like it always has what it needs. It's the ideal toolbox based control deck. It does all the things you want it to as a control deck. It has all the defense you need against the aggressive decks. It has all the ramp it needs to play against the other control decks and hit the Lost Soul. It does all of the things in theory the best against the best against the board, and especially in a single elimination bracket. This is kind of the deck. It kind of falls into that category like Rebirth, where it has all the tools it needs to win. It just needs to see them and obviously get piloted well.
Yeah. And this is called Forbos Control in the IDC metas. We were playing Logic Cube instead. One of the retoolings we did for this format, like the deck performed really well in Season 1, continues to perform well in Season 1. But, I wanted to mix it up a little bit, play some cards that are popular in other metas, and 3 copies of Forbos are in the list now, and the spell lineup is mixed up a little bit. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see how those changes affect it. It was already a really strong deck, one of the strongest, if not the strongest, and I think it will continue to be strong in Season 2 with these updates. If I restated anything you said, sorry, I was wrangling my cat.
No, you're good. Yeah, no, absolutely. And you brought up Forbos, and that's the namesake of this deck overseas, because these decks play like 50 cards.
Yeah,
They
50 is the
max
standard.
out 50. Yeah, and four Forbos, 3 to 4 foul is typically the way that runs,
Oh,
and
it's
it
always
just
4 and
plays
4, yeah.
that. Right, it plays that as the toolbox engine, and it just got called Forbos because that's the namesake
Yep.
card. That's the card that makes it what it is. And
But I'm old
turns
school. I'm
out
thinking
when you have
about,
a 50 card deck, being able to search your deck is much more relevant than necessarily getting the cards back with fouls.
yeah.
Hence the namesake.
We called it foul back in 2005, so that's what I'm sticking with.
Speaking to shout
Uh,
out to Stetsville, man. Wonder what she's
yeah.
up to.
If you're watching, leave a comment, please. You inspired me in my love of Control back when I was in middle school, which is a crazy thing to say as an adult.
Love it.
But yeah, that is the seeding. And if you're curious, how do these seeds turn into a bracket? They do it like this.
Oh,
There
wait,
we
we're
go.
on the second. There it is.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So yeah, at the bottom you can see the play-in bracket. Hopefully it's not too small if you're watching it on your phone. Sorry. Wave Strikers Wave Strikers
Pause and
versus
zoom, pause and zoom, pinch and zoom.
yeah, do it. Wave Strikers versus Waterfire Rush, Lightfire Nature Jungle versus Darkfire Declotans. Then they play a final match. That winner will be in the play-in slot that's up against the first seed Foul, and the rest of the bracket is just as you can see it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I think it's funny that Survivors catches Fire Nature again in round 7, exactly where it caught it last time. um, I think this time around Survivors should hopefully have the tools needed to hopefully make it out of that one if possible. But I'm excited for both of those decks to go at it again, see if Survivors can get Fire Nature back. But the rest of these matchups are they all look super interesting. Alcadius versus Phantomac, battle of the tempo in the mid-range deck. Phantomac has the tools to deal with Alzonius. Alzonius has the big stuff to just get over on Phantomac. Tempo versus Deck Out, which is Deck Out played against what I would have considered probably its worst matchup in season 1. Like Dark Nature mid-range, because it just had Petrova and Pela. I'm interested to see how this Forcive version does against a very aggressive deck. See if Waterfire Nature can get its both of those decks got knocked out in top 16 last time, so at least one of them's getting the top 8. Hydras versus a Rush deck. All of these matchups are just going to be interesting, to say the least, and that's
yeah.
that's kind of what we were going for.
Yeah, as far as things I'm really excited to see, it's going to take a while to get to it. It's the bottom, but Lightwater Dark Hydro versus the Force of Midrange. We were talking about this a little bit. Like, on one hand, Hydro Hurricane can really disrupt a 4-color deck's plan, especially if it's more of an aggressive deck. On the other hand, the Rebirth Midrange deck plays Rebirth, and Rebirth is really good against Mysterios, which is a centerpiece of the Hydra Hurricane deck. Rebirthing a Mysterios popping out a Galactic Kill a Pela is just an insanely high tempo play. So I'm really curious to see which of those decks plans will pop off more often than the other ones. And everything else, like you said, like it'll just be cool to see how our updated versions of these decks fare against some of the established decks like the Alzonius, the Alcadius, things like that. It's going to be pretty sick. Much more excited for these games than I was for Season 1.
Yeah.
Not that I
If
wasn't
there was
excited, but
ever a reason not to run Cataclysm, it might be because Alcadius won't let you.
no, you're never getting to 6. We're going to be reaping sowing all over the place. We'll see how it goes. What
Yeah,
happens?
this
Yeah,
will be fun.
yeah, I'm excited. Oh god, if Turbo
Um,
Burn and Mana Burn win, that's gonna be a top 8 match.
there's a lot of, I mean, shoot, even dragons. Yeah, it's regardless, there's just a lot of burn mana things happening, all in the bottom bracket actually, which is
Yeah,
neat, I
that's
guess.
the fun bracket.
It's the unfun bracket, some might say.
Not for me.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. Hope you guys, thanks for sticking around towards the end. For those of you who are still here and watching, really appreciate all of your support on the channel throughout, and really excited to bring you guys to season 2. Um, as we get into it, we'll figure out a schedule. Obviously, we still have top 4 to get through for the channel for season 1, as well as finals and a bronze match, and then from there we will start posting polls for this bracket. We'll start getting you guys' input. Like I said, I have some giveaways for hitting 2,000 subscribers, which again, thank you so much. I don't understand why you guys stick around and watch us, but I appreciate it all the same. It's been a blast, and I'm excited to continue to do this for you. And I don't want to put words in CVH's mouth, but I think he's excited too.
I am. And speaking of sticking around, I'm not going to, because it's been an hour and I need to go eat. So this has been fun. But
All right.
yep.
Until next time, guys. We'll, we'll see you next time. Stay tuned for updates and top 4 and for season 1. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Each.